Save the suspense. This story does not have a happy ending. Big Ten had two teams in the Frozen Four. Both those teams have been eliminated from national championship contention. Michigan, the #1 overall seed, goes down in dramatic fashion. Denver with a 3-2 win in the first of Thursday's semifinals. The nightcap, the in-state rivalry between Minnesota and Minnesota State. Gophers got on the board first, and then it was all Minnesota State from there on out, scoring 5 unanswered to end the Gophers season with a 5-1 victory. Our crew has been in Boston the last few days covering the Frozen Four. We head there one final time to check in with Dan Kelly and Paul Caponegri.
Thanks, Rick. It was a disappointing Thursday in Big Ten country, especially involving the two quality hockey programs that made it all the way to the Frozen Four. I thought somebody still would be playing Saturday, Cappy. How about you?
Thought, hoped, expected, yeah, all those things. It just wasn't the Big Ten's day. I think, didn't get any power plays, which is it's just weird. Not that there was a lot missed. I just think it was a weird day. The puck didn't bounce, obviously, Michigan's way. In overtime, Denver moves on. And then, the Gophers got off to the good start, but couldn't hang on against a tough team. We talked about Motzko about that. They played a team that's veteran, tough, lots of strength, and they just kept coming and coming, and they didn't give up, and they earned the win.
We thought the Gophers and the Wolverines would keep coming and coming. Michigan had 16 shots in regulation. I believe Minnesota was just one better at 17. That's shocking, those numbers.
Yeah, they're playing. You're playing the cream of the crop, right? So it is going to be a little more difficult getting pucks to the net. But Michigan, I was a little surprised at their shot total because Denver is not known as a lockdown defensive team. We thought it was going to be more of a run and gun type of game. It wasn't that way. And Michigan had their best moments in overtime. They had their spurts in regulation, but they had 7 shots in less than 15 minutes of overtime play, and you thought maybe they'd get that chance. Luke Hughes had a really good scoring chance not too long before, Denver puts it in. So, yeah, the shot total, I remember hearing somebody talking, they had combined for 31 shots, and we were in, late in the second period of the second game. So I think it's, a disappointing day, and it's surprising on how it went down.
And also, maybe the best player from Michigan was Eric Portillo. Without their goaltender, I don't even think they make it to overtime.
Yeah, he was fantastic, and Denver comes at you in waves, and he had his moments. He got his helmet knocked off at one point. I think actually, he likes to. He's a big guy. He can handle the physical play. Luckily, he did make saves. He just that last one was a rebound. What's the old adage, right? You make the first save and let your front of your net be taken care of. And unfortunately, that one didn't get taken care of, and Denver won the game. But Eric Portillo is a guy that as a fan of the Big Ten, as somebody that works for him. Like I hope he comes back. He's got 2 more years, but he's an older player. He'll be 22 in this summer. So one of the first questions of the offseason. But he was really good, and I enjoy watching him play.
You look at how good and how big he is. Is there areas of improvement for Michigan? Because there's going to be a lot of questions. What's going to happen in the coming days, in the coming weeks? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go?
Yeah, there's going to be some drama in the Big Ten, especially with the 2 teams we had here, right? Michigan and Minnesota have a lot of great young players, and there's money out there. There's whether you're Ben Myers, who's a free agent, every team's going to want him, or if you're Matthew Nyes on Minnesota, who's Toronto, who's all their fans on Twitter are like, "Whoa, can't wait, Nyes is going to be in our playoff lineup." Does he want to do that? Does he want to stay in college or be patient with that? With Michigan, Portillo, you got, of course, Powers, Beniers, Johnson, Hughes, the list goes on, right? So I think that's going to be a big story, and a lot of it could unfold pretty quickly for certain guys. I think Mothers might, take a little longer. I'd love to see them back. Selfishly, I want them all back because it's fun to watch, and they're really good teams. They'd be even better next year. But so we'll see with that, and specifically with the 2 teams here, it's going to be pretty dramatic.
Speaking of real good teams, Minnesota lost to a real good team in Minnesota State, who has now won 18 straight games. This is the 2nd consecutive year they've knocked the Gophers out of the tournament. Is it a case of Minnesota playing poorly, or just this Minnesota State team? They're older, they're bigger, they're stronger, and they're better than a lot of teams.
Yeah, I think that it's all that, and I think a lot of people are hesitant to know how good they are because, their conference at the top is really good, but there's a lot of wins out there that came, relatively easy. But you saw tonight why, because they're a really good team, but you just didn't know how battle tested they were against the elite, and clearly they showed it. You thought maybe Minnesota had a better chance, knowing that they had just played them last year and kind of had a feel for what they had to expect. I think they did, and they handled it early, but Minnesota State didn't slow down. They didn't get frustrated. They're a veteran team. They knew it was going to come at some point for them. Once they tied the game up, you kind of saw, oh boy, here we go. They got confident, and Minnesota kind of lost a little of their jam.
Never got sick of hearing or watching the captivating story that was Justin Close.
Right.
We sure got a full sample size, and he was the real deal from January on for this team.
It's amazing because it's fun. Those are the best stories, right? The unexpected stories. I mean, yes, it's great when you got a top guy coming in like an Owen Power, Matthew Nyes. You're expecting great stuff. When you get that kind of Rudy story or whatever way you want to spin it, and he does things like that, it's just brings more joy to, I think, the fans.
Yeah.
I think the coaching staff, the players around him love that. And I think he was a huge reason why they had so much success in the second half, not just because he played well, but like his teammates, they rode off of his kind of charisma, so to speak. And you don't see that often. Bob Motzko doesn't always want to talk so highly so quickly, and he did, and you can see why. He's a great goaltender and a great guy off the ice.
Let's go bigger picture. You were a charismatic Buckeye back in the day. Your alma mater, they came awful close this year to qualifying for the tournament. Sure. You would think their chances are real strong next year.
Yeah, I mean, another one team that maybe has a few guys that exceeded expectations in their freshman years, in Jakob Dobish and Mason Lohrei, that they're draft picks and they had really good years, and I think they should both come back. But you just never know. Lohrei was a second-round pick of Boston. They might feel he's ready. We saw Buckeyes kind of falter at the end. They lost their defenseman, and they lost 5 of 6 games. Didn't make the tournament by the last team. And then Jakob Dobish was a story. How many awards did he win? First team All-League, goalie of the year, freshman team. And they've got other guys, and they're bringing in more. So, they're a team that I think if all their guys come back are a team that's going to elevate. And then, you didn't mention it yet, but Notre Dame had some big news with Lieberman coming back for his 5th year. That's a huge get for Jack Get, I should say, kind of like a new recruit, right? Because you're not expecting him to come back, but with those rules, he's able to come back. And then they had picked up a couple of transfer portal guys. Jeff Jackson's been very active with that. So Notre Dame's going to be right in the mix. So I think those 4 that were last year, and then, surprises of, Penn State, I think will make a step next year. Wisconsin, I think, is going to be very active in the transfer portal, try to get a little more offense involved. They already added a goaltender. They have 3 goalies now that are so their depth in goal is great. They just need a little more offense. And Michigan State's just got to find a way at some point. But I like the top. I think those same 4 teams that were vying this year, we're going to be there. And then you might sprinkle in some more, Penn State in there, and Wisconsin, we just don't know yet.
How about the entire conference? Because the big stage of the Frozen Four, we've seen Big Ten teams melt here, and they continue to do it. To excel at this stage and bring a national championship to Big Ten country, what do you think teams, when they design and they recruit, what do they need to do? Is it size? Is it age? Is it experience? What attributes should they be looking for more in players?
Well, that's the interesting thing with that is Bob Motzko, remember, he said, he's like, I want to come in here and recruit older and get a mix, have the young Matthew Nyes and the young energetic guys, but also bring in like a 20-year-old, couple of those guys. And he said, he jokingly said, yeah, I kind of lied to you guys, but I got experienced young guys. I think that's what he said. And I think you saw that for the most of the part of the year. It's when you get to these games, like you said, when you're in the elite of the elite, and you could see the physical maturity of a team like Minnesota State. But you also, they have a tough spot. They're recruiting these guys that are going to be elite players eventually, like the Pitlicks and the Bros and those guys. They're freshmen, but they're going to be around for a couple of years. And in 2 years, they're going to be elite players. It's just, how do you pass up on the talent? So it's not an easy gig, and I think a lot of the other schools have that. And Michigan right now is on an unbelievable recruiting role. They might lose some guys, but they got guys that are going to come in that are going to be high draft picks again. So, I think it's finding the mix, but it's not always easy to do that because you're not guaranteed and you don't know how long you're going to have these young guys. If he has a great first year, he might be gone. If he doesn't have a great year, okay, but then he didn't do enough, right? But then he's coming back. But so it's just a tough job. Those guys, I think they enjoy doing it, but they're realizing how hard it is.
Yeah. Talented conference. I'm sure we'll see a lot more teams in future. Frozen Fours, it was fun. Sorry to be reporting some bad news from Boston as we slide you right back to Chicago.
Gentlemen, thank you. The Gophers season does come to an end in the national semifinal with that 5-1 loss to Minnesota State. What a terrific run by Minnesota, though, especially late in the year. And Ben Myers, very good chance that the Gopher could still win the Hobie Baker Award as the nation's top individual player. Magical season did need a better bounce for the Maize and Blue. Season comes to an end for Michigan, and in all likelihood, Owen Power, Matty Beniers, Kent Johnson, potentially Luke Hughes, all off to the NHL. It'll be a new-look Wolverine team next year, but as Paul Caponigri pointed out, still a remarkably talented Michigan team as the year comes to an end in the semifinals. Let's talk some women's lacrosse. Specifically, we focus on the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. They're already 10-3 this season, most wins in a single season with games still to play since 2010. They are ranked 15th in the current coaches poll, one of 5 Big Ten teams ranked this week. Tara Lindeslonsky set the school record for career points with 6 points in the loss against Northwestern on Thursday. Megan Ball, Cassidy Spillis, both named mid-season All-Americans by Inside Lacrosse. And with that, as promised, the head coach of the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, Melissa Lehman, kind enough to join us for today's big interview. I know you returned to your home state to take over this program in 2019, and the trend has been upward ever since. Already 10 wins this year. You got to the tournament last year, won a game. Has this happened more quickly than you envisioned, and what's been your philosophy in trying to make it happen?
Well, I am home. I'm so happy to be at Rutgers. Jersey is a special place, and I just felt Rutgers being in the Big Ten, it was kind of a sleeping giant. Couldn't wait to get started with this program, and it was really a special blend of my coaching philosophy of just competing every day and fostering a really tight-knit family that I think we were able to get on the same page, players and coaches very early, and trusted each other in the process. And so I'm so proud of this team. I mean, they're the ones that do it every day, and my coaching staff and what we've been able to build. And we're just getting started at Rutgers.
You can see the chemistry with the team in studio. Before we went to break, how much fun everybody is having. That's a little bit easier when you're having success. But it is melding the players that were there when you took the job and also the recruits that you are going out to get. What's your philosophy in terms of recruiting? You talked about it being somewhat of a sleeping giant inside the Big Ten and in a pretty fertile recruiting area.
Yeah, I mean, I want players that want to win. And the girls on this team right now, they have that. They have the vision that we want to compete for championships. And so for me, it's really finding players that want to be part of that and want to build something and have an impact at that. Something we talk about as a team all the time is we're building our program brick by brick, and it doesn't happen overnight, but we're steadily getting there, and it's been a lot of fun along the way.
Obviously, a couple of pretty big bricks went into that build last year by not just making the NCAA tournament, but by winning that first-round game against Drexel. What did that mean in the process of building this program to where you ultimately want it to be?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's just, it's so great for the players. I mean, what they invest and all of our fans and our community. Getting to the NCAAs was historic for us, the second time ever, and that win, just so much pride. And I think that makes us even hungrier this year. You know, we got a taste of it. And that, you know, I think for this team, getting that taste makes you work that much harder in the off season, and we're focused to get back there again. But, you know, we're right in the process of competing in that tough Big Ten schedule. So we're just happy to be in this conference that prepares us for games like the NCAAs.
Well, and knowing what awaits you in the Big Ten, when you start in the non-conference, you know you have to do some serious work, and you guys did. You won your first 8, and in 7 of those 8, you scored at least 15 goals. How much of your philosophy and how much of what you want your team to do is predicated on the push and being more offensive than your opposition?
Yeah, well, it starts with the draw and getting the possession so we can get to the offense. But I think with our offensive philosophy, we always have 7 threats. We have a lot of people that can put the ball in the net. I was happy last night. We got a lot of people in the scoring column. That was a goal. And when you have a whole team that can produce, whether it's goals or assisting, it's hard to stop. And so my team plays free. They play not really robotic at all. They like to read and react and play with good chemistry, and that's a fun attack to be a part of. So we want to get a lot of shots on goal and really work defenses, and that's something we talk about a lot. And we've got a great offense.
Well, I know the result of last night's game didn't exactly turn out the way you wanted, but for 3.5 quarters, it was still in question before Northwestern started to pull away. When you look at Northwestern, when you look at Maryland, when you look at the 5 ranked teams that are inside this league, how tough is it to have continued success game after game, knowing the opposition that you're going to face?
I mean, no question, it's a challenge, but we find successes in every game and where we learn. I mean, I think last night's game against Northwestern, we were better on offense because we learned from playing Maryland's defense. And so that's what it takes. It's a long season, and we're just committed to getting better. And we just got to find ways to keep competing day in and day out. I think last year helped us with that. Only playing Big Tens, you had to be on.
As we showed in the graphic, Terrell Naslonsky with 6 points last night becomes Rutgers' all-time leading point scorer. Cassie Spillis, an outstanding goal scorer. What do those 2 players specifically mean for the success of your team?
Yeah, so I'll start with TT. I mean, unbelievable accomplishment. You know, I think she's a player that just cares so much about this team and Rutgers. I mean, Rutgers' pride oozes from her. And she's a special player. She goes hard. She's one of the fastest players I've ever coached. And I've just been so happy with her transformation as I've seen her grow as a player, not just a goal scorer, but also assisting. And I think that gets our team really rolling. And so just really happy for her. Setting the tone on our offense. And then Cassidy Spillis is a midfielder. Talk about just a fearless competitor. Someone who wants the ball in her stick, wants to take over the game. You'll see her diving out there, just putting the team on her shoulders. And she brings that in practice every day. So it's just very consistent in terms of, like, she wants to win, she wants to compete, and sets that bar high for our team.
But you're not going to win without good defense on the back end as well. And Megan Ball is well known as one of the best defenders, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally, a midseason All-American. What does she mean when you do make the occasional mistake or you give up the occasional rush to the opposing team?
I think Meg is just reliable in so many ways, a competitor. She's just solid. And whether it's on the draw circle or coming up with a huge ground ball and a caused turnover that we saw a lot last night, she has a knack for making plays. And when she does, the defense just rises and rallies around her. She's one of the toughest players out there. I, hands down, believe she's the best defender out there in the country, and we are so glad she's on our team.
And you actually tweeted about that in conjunction with an outstanding defender for the Rutgers men's basketball team, Caleb McConnell, known as one of the best defenders in all of men's basketball. Now, you never specified which sport we want to see them actually playing if they are together. So you have the chance to do that now.
Well, I mean, I've seen Meg play on the basketball court as well this year. We had team basketball, and she was hands down the MVP. So I think that duo could play together anywhere, but it's so awesome to see just defense at Rutgers shining. I mean, Rutgers and Jersey is all about that grit, and you got to have that on the defensive end.
So obviously the men's team is having a terrific year as well. How much are you guys chatting with your counterparts on the men's team? How dialed in are you to what they're doing?
I think it's awesome when your counterpart has that same just buzz about their program. Our girls are huge supporters of their team. I love seeing their players in our stands. I think it's that mentality of on to the next, always talking about how are the practices going and just working through challenges that they have. You know, I think you hit bumps in the road, but your team starts to gel. And I know they've had a lot of different players as well on the offense, and seeing their offensive firepower. I think that's fun, and I think we counter that pretty nicely.
They obviously have good fan support. You guys have great fan support. Rutgers Athletics in general has terrific fan support. But this year, you get the special treat of getting to host the women's lacrosse tournament. What does that mean for your school, your state, the program, and the fans that are going to be able to see some of the best women's lacrosse in the country?
Well, I was so happy to tell my team that we were hosting this year. I thought that gave them just extra motivation of wanting to play on our home field. And so I think for us, that's a special thing, and that's getting us through, this entire season with that goal in mind. I think for our school and New Jersey in general, there's great lacrosse in the state, and we've had such a great youth presence already at so many of our home games. So we are looking forward to blowing it out of the water and really packing SHI Stadium and getting some good attendance, because bringing this high-level lacrosse to New Jersey is what the fans want to see.
Well, I know you have an econ degree from Penn, so I was going to spend the last minute and a half begging you for some good financial advice and strategies, but officially we're out of time. So, Melissa Lehman, we truly appreciate it. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Rick.
Everybody awesome with the Rutgers women's lacrosse team. Good luck to the Scarlet Knights for the rest of the regular season.